Welcome to the Land.MBA Big Recap episode. Dave and I have been doing this podcast for over a year now. Does time fly? We've had really interesting guests and covered a lot of ground. So for this episode, we thought it would be fun to recap a few highlights from previous episodes with topics like how to work with an investor, how and when to work with a realtor, how to get the most from your VAs, and a whole lot more. This is a bite-sized episode with some serious land investor nutrition, so I hope you enjoy it. My experience working with investors in not only in land, but in other business as well, is that having a great product or a great idea is not necessarily the deciding factor on who an investor is going to invest in. So I'm curious, what's your criteria? How do you determine whether you're finding the land investor or whether they're finding you? How do you determine whether it's going to be a good fit or not?
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to know first off is what's their experience? What's besides what their why is. So now I understand their why, but what kind of efforts have they put into their education? Have they taken any courses? Have they not taken any courses? Do they learn everything from YouTube? I'll give you an example. We were previously talking about this, but I have someone that reached out to me and said, I learn everything that I can from YouTube. And I think that's great. But there were some simple questions that I was asking him about. What does he think about landlocked properties? What about floodplains? And he started stumbling when I was asking him those questions, or just saying, that's not a big deal. And so that makes me a little bit nervous when I am looking at someone to potentially fund their deals, because I want to understand how they're doing their due diligence, what level of knowledge they have. And so I can make sure that I'm actually aligned with them. So I look at their due diligence spreadsheet, see they've got to have something. It's just, how are they just looking at active comps? Are they looking at sold comps? How do they sell their properties? Do they sell them through brokers? Do they sell them on their own? Do they self-fund their deals most of the time, or are they working with other investors? When they're working with me, for instance, I want to know that they're not like, there's a lot of time and energy that I put into on the front end to actually analyze a deal. And so if someone, for instance, if David sent me a deal and said, hey, I want you to fund this deal, but he was shopping it, or he sent that deal out to all these other land funders, to me, that's a waste of my time. So I want to know what their process is. And then I also want to know how they analyze a deal and what their experience is with the number of deals that they've done. I want to take a look at their website and see if, number one, do they have a website? Do they have a proper email address, or is it just, howardzonder@gmail.com? Do they have an actual business? Where are they headed with this? So those are a few little things that I look for when I'm kind of checking out whether or not I want to work with a land investor or not to fund their deals.
So let's just say that this person who says, I learn everything I learned from YouTube, and that's just how I do it. I don't believe in courses. I watch my son, right? He's 12 years old. I don't know where this came from, but he is absolutely crazy about blacksmithing. That is his thing. And we actually built a forge. We got like a whole little blacksmith shop going on outside. Wow. But, like most kids, when he's passionate about something, he watches 10,000 hours of YouTube videos. He knows more than most adults know about blacksmithing. He speaks the lingo. It's amazing what he knows. So why is that not sufficient?
So I think you can learn a lot from YouTube. That's like my go-to place as well from time to time, but it doesn't give you the bumps in the road and that you can potentially experience, especially when you're dealing with money. Like, he's doing this as a hobby, right? He's not doing this as a business. He's not doing blacksmithing as a business, right? So there's not there's not, and he's not using someone else's money except maybe your money to actually fund his hobby. But those are some things that I look at, is that if I was wanting to learn about investing in, I don't know, couch flipping or something. I think I saw something on YouTube recently.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I'm the type where I don't have a lot of time and I want to be able to avoid any of the mistakes. And why wouldn't I go to someone that is doing it and doing it well and pay them for their time and say, teach me what you're doing. I will pay you for that time. And then I think the time to productivity or time to learning and being profitable is so much faster than what it would be if I didn't do that. And I continued to spend hours upon hours learning all the mistakes, maybe through YouTube. And I think there's a lot that probably isn't shared on YouTube that they just share individually through coaching. So that's what I would recommend.
I think, that points to, there's tons of great information on YouTube. The problem is you don't have if you're just going in there new, you don't have a guide that says, all right, these are all the things that you must know. You don't have any kind of syllabus, right? Where a course is going to be based on everything that person has learned and learned from their mentors, learned from their experience, and it's put down into bullet points in a guide. So it comes down to the 4 stages of learning, right? You're first, you're ignorant. You don't know what you don't know. So if I go on watching YouTube videos, I'm ignorant at that point, okay, because I don't know what I don't know. So I think I've just learned a ton of great stuff, and I did, but I don't know what's missing. I'm still ignorant. And then you go to the place where you're when you know what you don't know, you're just incompetent. Then you start learning that stuff, you develop competency, and then you become an expert when you put in so much time. So I think you want somebody who's at least at the competency stage. And that's why the structure of a course, and of course, not just you can only teach so much in a course. I mean, even after you've done, a couple of 100 deals, there's still things that come up that don't know. So to be able to get on the phone or text somebody that whether it's a mentor or a mastermind or whatnot, to find an answer is very important. And I just want to stay on that same point. I think as an investor, as the operator, I like the fact that my funder is being that stringent in his criteria. I know when you and I started talking, we built a relationship. We built a rapport, and I think it's very important because, and you talk about shopping the deals, and that's okay. Start getting to know the various funders and whatnot. But if you're shopping for 1% here and 1% there, that's just not going to fly, because there's plenty of people out there who need funding. It's like, no, dude, I'm not going to play that. It's about building that rapport and that relationship, so that if you get into a deal that gets hairy, you've got some rapport with each other. You're going to work through it.
Yeah, I'm everything. All my experiences as an investor, working with an investor, it's all about. It's not just about even do they know their craft, do they know what they're doing. It's about who are they. If they're not willing to invest in themselves, that speaks a little bit to their long-term intention in the business and their style. If I'm going to put my money with them, I want to know that, they're eating, living, and breathing this stuff, that they are committed, both for the sake of their own profit, but also out of their commitment to their investor. So a lot of it comes down to, do I believe in this person? Do I believe that they will use my money in this opportunity that we're creating together to do it? Are they ambitious enough? Do they have the fire in the belly? Are they going to find a way through every roadblock that comes their way, or are they just going to give up when it gets hard?
Okay, I'm gonna take the plunge. I might be the object of a little bit of ridicule in the office when I go in and tell them, "Hey, I'm gonna start buying scrubland in the middle of the Southwest." But that's exactly what I did, and I did get ridiculed. But the ridiculing kind of stopped when I said, "Hey, look at this spreadsheet. I got my mortgage covered for the next 5 years." So that was kind of an aha moment, I think, for especially the younger guys in our office who are just struggling to make, mortgage payments to begin with, let alone what goes on top of it in a straight commission business. So you can oftentimes negotiate the price to where you're effectively paying somewhere around, 8, 9, 10%, depending on the market and depending on the condition of the post office, what types of improvements need to be done to the building. But oftentimes these are 1,000-foot buildings, 750 square foot buildings. So you might only pay, $50,000 to $100,000 for a post office, which is something that's within the realm of possibility for a lot of people out there. It's really just making sure that you have plenty of time on hand, not just 9, 12 months ahead of the lease expiration, but really you want to start negotiating 2, 3 years ahead of time, laying out your strategy, which seems like a long time, but it does go quick. But it takes a long time to negotiate any deal in real estate when bricks and mortar are involved. And, you have to kind of slow play it a little bit and be patient. And eventually, that patience yields significant results if it's done properly. So, and the same thing when you're buying it.
Hey, folks, people often talk about automating and outsourcing your land flipping business, but what does that really mean? Generic solutions leave it to you to figure out how to set up and maintain the automations. I've been running my land business on LandSpeed for over 3 years because it's a total solution and allows me to focus on being a great land investor. LandSpeed was built specifically for land investing by a land investor. And with many of the most successful people in the business using it for years, it's evolved into one of the most feature-rich solutions on the market. Some of the key benefits I get are being able to create and manage mail campaigns and neighbor letters. I'm able to automate tasks amongst my team, create contracts and deeds, and email, text, or mail them within a few clicks. I can automatically capture sales leads from any lead source, including Facebook Messenger. Then it automatically pushes those leads into my sales funnel so that I can manually follow up, but they also go into my automated drip campaign. And since LandSpeed's a total cloud-based solution, I can run my business from anywhere in the world with a phone, laptop, or tablet. So if you want to turn your hobby into a professional, scalable business, just go to landspeedtech.com/Dave to receive a $150 discount today.
One other thing I wanted to talk about with the pay, or your question around the U.S. based, right, team members having a full-time career that I do enjoy. I realized very quickly I don't have time to be the one making all those decisions, and if I only have VAs or team members that are task oriented, whether they always have to wait for me to come, tell them, here's your next task to do, here's how to answer this question. Then what I'd created was really just another job. And I don't need another job. We got young kids, full-time, a wife and a full-time career. And so I wanted to own a business, right? And to grow it, even if it was growing slowly, that's okay. Just incrementally growing. And so the delegation has been kind of a big thing I've focused on, right? And there's different levels of delegation. I don't remember where I read this. I've read this in several management books over the years, but kind of the hierarchy of delegating. And it kind of starts at task-oriented delegation of here's every single step you need to do in the process. Here's a video, here's a Word document. Now go follow these steps and let me know when you're done, right? And then you go all the way to the far end of the spectrum, which is, they come to me and I'll ask, hey, how would you solve this problem? Right? And rather than me giving them an answer, I kind of answer their question with a question, right? Because they've been with our team long enough. They've proven that they can make sound decisions. And quite frankly, they're closer to the particular problem or particular challenge than I am.
You're having a banner year.
I am. Absolutely.
Let's hear about it. What do you think?
So,
what's going on?
So what I did, so I work exclusively in Texas. Texas Land Direct is the name of my company. And I more or less, I keep using the phrase stumbled into, that's not how it happened. I was on an all-day conference call one time, and there are 254 counties in Texas, and I went and did marketing analysis on all 254 that day.
Mhm.
And I came up with 36 counties that I wanted to see if I could work in, and narrowed that down to basically 3 or 2, and started mailing into those and buying property and stuff like that. That has turned into, for lack of a better term, a honeypot. It is in Central Texas, and basically the area just got hot. I met a realtor last year, who basically I put one of my listings up on the MLS using one of the listing services, and they did such a bad job. She had to call me to get information on the property that I was selling because it had no information in it besides the price and where it was. And that started a relationship that is just skyrocketed. I can show you a graph of sales that you could see exactly when I met her. But she's my exclusive realtor in that area, and she's absolutely worth her weight in gold. So she sells stuff, and I have to be very careful when I give her stuff because sometimes she sells it before I actually buy it.
Is she bringing you deals too, or you just found the honeypot to mail to?
I just found a honeypot to mail, so I just continue to mail. Now, there's a lot of competition out there these days, and so I continue to mail. Prices have increased on both the buy and the sell side. So, been mailing. Basically, it's 2 counties. It's one small area, and most of the work we do in one county. Although the other side is more, shall we say, rustic. And I haven't bought into it hardly ever until the beginning of the year. It's been years, but it picked up. And so I bought a bunch of properties there, sold all of those, buying more. And then September's coming up, so I'm going to do another mailing. September for the past 2 years has been our best buy month ever. So it's a small area. So when I send out, if I send out 1,000 letters, which will probably be this time, that's a lot for me. I know people who are sending 4,000 or 5,000 a week out, but that's just not how the land works in Texas and most places.
How many
So
deals?
not only have you figured out how to massively ramp up your sales like a hockey stick, you've managed to figure out how to do it while keeping your mailing costs really low because you're super targeted.
Yeah, very targeted. Very targeted.
Yeah.
But there's a process of getting to the point where you can be targeted like that, right? I'm sure it was spray and pray for a while, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, mailing, it was like, okay, at the very beginning it was hard to get comps because it just was because there wasn't that much selling. And then as time has gone on, everything started picking up last year. Yeah. Beginning of last year, right in the middle of beginning of the pandemic, everybody's worried about stuff, and everybody had a banner year, including myself. But it's just familiarity with your location. So I've worked there for years. I know how to price things. I have physically been there because there are geographic anomalies there. So you really have to know what you're buying because they actually created properties that you physically cannot build on without spending $1 million for a $200,000 house, because
Right.
it's a, lack of a better term, it's a granite rock. I don't know why they did it like that, but people bought that. They sold that to people.
Yeah, it's amazing some of the stuff we stumble on that they sold to people back in the Wild West, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
Different than the swampland in Florida.
Yeah. I literally have a map, and I literally drove every street in the town. These are all infill lots, and I have marks that says "Do not buy," And then I showed that to my, I was like, we'll get one back. It's on my do not buy. I'll talk to my realtor about it. She goes, oh, I can sell that. And she does. So my do not buy list is now not used. I'll run it by her and her assistant, and they'll go out and physically like, oh, okay, I can sell this. And that's just how this all happened. Yeah.
What an amazing resource to have that on the ground. You went out one time, and now you don't have to do it anymore.
Exactly. So no more Facebook marketing, no Craigslist or, things like that. I still have a Lands.com account for some other stuff I'm selling, but
right.
That's it. But yeah, it's just that. And, now I'm moving into different areas. So we kind of spread out a bit. And now, I've got the arduous job of finding another realtor who can do the same.
But essentially, in this case, you didn't actually find a realtor. The realtor found you.
Believe it or not, yes. So she found me and basically brokered the selling of this property. And then I had such a good experience with her. Like, hey, I've got these other things. Do you think you could sell some of these? And so she did. I mean, immediately. And then I'm like, I got a bunch of these others. You want to just sell all of them? So that's how that relationship. And
wow.
Now I pay her 10%. So that's higher than most people do. But for land, I think that's kind of common in different places.
Yeah.
Higher thing. But right now, in all honesty, a lot of the realtors getting 10% anyway. It doesn't matter what they're selling.
But in exchange for that small gift, you're doing a super high volume.
Yeah.
You're making a fortune, and the amount of effort that you have to put in has probably been cut by 30-40%.
Absolutely. So, I don't have to worry about sales anymore in this one area. So she handles all that. So all I do is we'll get a property. I'll just email her, hey, this lot's available. She starts her marketing. We've sold almost 80 properties this year.
Holy
wow.
shnikes, buddy.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's close to 80. I just hand it over to her. I don't have to worry about, I had when I was selling there, I had a VA who would handle my Facebook stuff. And so she would get the conversation going, and then I would just kind of fill in and kind of close the sale type of thing. I have a friend of mine helping me out with the intake. He's also one of the investors that I use. So he handles the intake, and then she handles the sales, and I just kind of sign papers and write checks.
Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out Land.MBA, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable and scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course, and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's Soup to Nuts Land Investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba and coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your job and hello to financial freedom.
Well, so we saw probably within the last year or two, deals for apartment complexes have been slowing down. Well, I still have investors that have money that they want to invest. So rather than just sit around idly by and watch the world go and twiddle my thumbs and my toes, I decided to start looking for other opportunities. So one of the things I came across was a deal in agriculture. It has to do with orange groves and then greenhouses. And then the greenhouses specifically grow vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers, green, red, orange peppers, that kind of stuff. And the returns are phenomenal. Matter of fact, one of the reasons we decided to jump into it is because the average return for the investors looks like it's going to be in the 13 to 15% range, which is comparable, if not better, than some of the apartment deals that we've been getting lately too. So we decided to go jump into that and started raising funds for it. And we're actually doing pretty good and really excited about it.
Wow. Wow. So, can you give me a little bit more detail on how it works?
Well, I guess it would depend on, what do you mean by how it works?
Well, so are you going, so it's orange groves. So are you buying the land, or you're buying an interest in the property?
Yeah, got it. So there's a gentleman who owns something like 1,800 acres of land. And on the 1,800 acres, he's actually going out and pre-planting orange trees. There's about 320 trees per lot, and a lot is just under 1.25 acres. And so what he's been doing is not only doing that, but he's also been going out and on the same or on similar land, he's been leveling it out and putting on these greenhouses. And these greenhouses aren't your typical backyard greenhouses. These suckers are 1/2 acre in size.
Wow.
They're huge. Yeah, they're huge. They're completely automated. They've got drip water systems. They've got temperature control systems, because you don't want it too hot. You don't want it too cold. And by keeping it at the optimum temperature, you end up with maximum produce, whether it's, again, the cucumbers, tomatoes, or greenhouses. Greenhouses. Tomatoes, cucumbers, or green peppers, or orange peppers, or red peppers, or whatever the case might be.
Right.
So yeah, so he owns all the land, but when we come in and actually do our investment, we buy the land from him. So we actually get fee simple title from him for the land. So we own the land. We actually own the orange trees, which is a depreciable asset. We own the greenhouse, and the land that it sits on, the greenhouse and all the equipment, the drip watering system and the sunscreens and the computers and all that kind of stuff. That's all depreciable. So it's pretty cool investment. And it's actually set up, right now we have it set up showing our investors just an average return for 10 years. But ultimately, there's nothing that says it has to end in 10 years. We own everything outright. So in 10 years, we have to put a little bit more money back into the greenhouses to redo the irrigation system. The orange trees actually go for 25 full years. At the end of 25 years, they chop the trees down. They actually sell them as firewood. We get the income from the firewood. Then if we choose to, we can actually pay them to replant orange trees and start it back up for another 25 years. So it's a really long-term generational wealth growing type of opportunity that has some pretty good cash flow to it as well.
I love it. So essentially you're buying land with essentially a turnkey farm on it, with some depreciable assets that you got to, have put a little bit aside to maintain and create returns off of the crops, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Absolutely. And it's some really, really good cash flow. So it's also great for the environment because you're growing fruits and vegetables and trees and that kind of stuff, which helps with the carbon monoxide and or carbon dioxide. And then it also creates jobs. The gentleman that's actually starting this project, between his orange groves, his greenhouses, and he also has a wholesaling produce company, he's created nearly 1,000 jobs.
We get into it, and my commercial broker who we found is somebody that's been very helpful, and he gets this thing going. And he, first question, you got water and sewer? And I'm like, yeah, that's not an issue. We already took care of that. Well, we start digging. Turns out the city official was wrong. We do not have water and sewer. And so now we're scrambling after we spent this money to figure out a way to get the water and sewer there. And so I had meetings with the public works director. I've been out there. I mean, there's a number of neighbors that I've contacted, found their numbers, gone and seen them, tried to figure a way, a win-win solution so that we could at least get the sewer line. The sewer line is more important in my mind than the water, because water, we could just get a well. We got so much space, it's not a big issue. But they told me, septic is not a possibility because there's a city ordinance. You can't have septic here. I'm like, excuse me? You're not giving us access. Why didn't the city create this line here? This is a major road. It's not like this is like landlocked property. This is on a major road, but there's no pipes. And so it turned into a kind of a nightmare. And, long story short, I'm dealing with my commercial broker, telling them the series of things that have happened. And it was about 2 months of struggling with this. And he goes, look, Todd, you're just a paper developer. You're not a real developer. You're not going to spend, $250,000 to bring the water line in over a mile. You're just not going to do that. I'm like, you're right. I'm not. And he goes, but you've got a lot of data here. I think we can list it now. And I'm like, great, list it. So he puts it on the market. And the next day, I'm not kidding when I say the next day, we had a buyer. And this buyer came in with a multiple 7-figure letter of intent. So one of our, there's always one more, right? We took down 63 acres. And again, I didn't bring an investor in because I thought this is such a good deal. I'm going to use all my capital. And so I did. And we ended up cutting it up into 6 tracts of land. And I had a survey done, it had highway frontage, kind of had to do something funky with the lines and everything, but everybody kind of got one piece of frontage, and we ended up having to do a shared driveway. So there were like 3 or 4 surveys that had to be done on top of the first one. We got it all sorted, and I ended up selling the first tract. Okay. And, here goes back to DIY, no realtor involved. I'm selling it on my own with my signs that are out there. And I made a little boo-boo in the contract. And so I'm just going to share it because it's like classic. I didn't even know I made this mistake, actually. I put the contract together and I showed the survey. She's going to get 10 acres. It was a seller finance deal. But instead of using the 10-acre legal description, I did the legal description for all 63 acres. Oh, no. And so technically I sold the entire tract to the first buyer. Okay. I didn't know this until the second tract got sold, because the second tract went under contract, goes to the title company. Now there's realtors involved on both sides. And my realtor calls me. He's like, hey, they're saying that you sold the whole tract to this other person. That was before I was in on the deal. What's the deal? So I go back through the paperwork. I'm like, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's my, default. But I look at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, it is. I did sell the whole thing to her. And so, I had to clean that up.
I'm sure this happens for lots of investors where you're mailing mail at $10,000 price points, just trying to find property, and then someone replies and they said, you're really low on this property, but do you want to have another look at it? And you realize it's a much higher value property that you've just kind of stumbled into, and you've already anchored, you haven't infuriated them enough to not call you back. So at least you have an opportunity to maybe get a big fish here. And so we got a couple big fish, which was really nice. And that's an upside that I think a lot of people don't always think about, which is, you're not necessarily always going to be doing your sell it for 4 when you bought it for 1. There might be some really massive opportunities that come by when you're just constantly throwing lines out there. Mm-hmm. So for a couple of those properties that were worth over $100,000, we did get realtors involved, because our marketing channels aren't finding those kinds of buyers.
We don't have those type of people in our existing client base right now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.